students, and welcome to parents who are watching this later on the video. We're so happy to be playing for you today. I just want to explain that we have a team of teachers that work together, string teachers that work together in all the grades. I happen to be leading the 5th grade, but we also have Ms. Garrett in the violin section, who teaches a bunch of the sectionals as well as helps in orchestra, and same thing for Mrs. Jacques, who you see in the cello section. And I should probably also just mention the very tall bass player that you see back there, who's not in the 5th grade. He is a guest musician. His name is Pablo. He's my son, and he's home from college, and he's a great bass player, and he graciously was able to come and participate with us today. So it's always fun to have guest musicians playing in the group. I just also want to compliment the entire 5th grade orchestra before we even start, because they have been so dedicated. I just think this group has been particularly dedicated to what they've been working on this year. This group is a little different than 5th grade orchestras that we've had in the past. Because of COVID, they did not get to start strings in the 3rd grade. There was no 3rd grade string program in their year. So their first chance to play strings was last year, for almost all of them. And so we've been doing a lot of intensive work this year to really pull them through with their skills, and they're doing a fabulous job. So we'll get started with our first piece, which is Frere, which a bunch of you may know can be sung as a round or sung by itself. We're singing it with our instruments using our bows, and you'll hear it played twice. The first time through, we'll play unison, which means the entire group is playing all at the same time. And the second time through, you should hear 3 separate parts in the round. So see if you can figure out 3 different parts going on the second time through. So here's Frere. Different string instruments playing together. So our next piece is called French Folk Song. In this piece, we are going to play the melody by itself, like everybody playing melody the first time through. And you might see us playing, if you're watching our bows really carefully, you might see us playing more than one note in a bow. So we learned a new technique for the song. It's called slurs. So you'll see something like this. 3 notes in one bow. So you'll see that in this piece, in the melody. Then the second time through, we're going to start adding in people playing different parts at the same time to add that richness to it. So look for slurs in the melody and listen for the richness in the second version of French Folk Song. year, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, have been really about developing these beautiful, smooth bows. So in Twinkle, you hear the melody first time through, and then some special people on a fancy version of the melody called obligato. And then we'll add that obligato to the melody, and one more thing, a bunch of harmony parts. And these harmony parts, I mention them not only because they make the song sound richer and you can really hear them, but it's also a new skill for us this year, learning to read music so we can play things that aren't necessarily memorized, but we learn how to read the music so we can add in all these different layers, and it's not just everybody playing one memorized piece. So enjoy Twinkle in all its versions, 3 versions. Connected bows. The next song, the name of the next song is Allegro, which actually means happy in Italian. And for this happiness, we're going to use faster bows with spaces in between. Sometimes we call those notes staccato. They're not all staccato, but you'll see a lot of staccato fast bows in this piece. The other thing I want to heads up the audience about this piece, there's something called a fermata in this piece. And for those of you who are in a band or playing another instrument or know a lot about music, a fermata is this thing that looks like a rainbow with a dot in the middle. And what it means is hold the note. How long do you hold the note? Until the leader says the note is over. So it's one of those places in the music where it's really important to have a leader or a conductor or someone who's in charge of saying, when's that note over? And after the fermata, there's a pause. And this is why I'm telling you, the audience, about it, because you have to know that that pause is not the end of the piece yet. Okay, so don't clap after the long note. It's not the end of the piece. We're going to pause. We're going to play the ending. playing the piece twice, that fermata and that pause happen twice. So if you're not sure, just wait until I put my instrument down. That's definitely the end of the piece, okay? So try not to clap in the wrong place. I gave you the heads up. And enjoy Allegro. There are some really different bow styles in here. This is an audience test. You're a very attentive audience. I'm sure you're. Moment in any performance where there's like a pause and a wait. And it's actually that moment in between things where there's this interesting slice of time where you're kind of on the balance of, ooh, what's going to happen now? And that's one of the things that makes music fun and exciting to play. Different moods, different styles, different moments that come up as you're playing. Okay, our next piece is, oh, it's also a fun one. This is called Can Can. A lot of you might recognize the melody when we get to it at the end, but it starts with an introduction, and we have some of our more experienced players playing the introduction, and you can kind of enjoy the difference in style between the small group sound, which is very light and staccato bows, and the big group sound when it comes in. So there you'll get a lot of contrast between small group, big group sound. Can Can. with everybody lifting their bows together. So I thought I'd pass the compliment along. Our last piece is different from the rest because it's really a piece for string orchestra. The name of the piece is called Bohemian Stomp. And what I mean is, by being a piece for orchestra, string orchestra, is that it really has the four parts that you usually think of in a string orchestra. It's going to have a first violin part, a second violin part. There are so many violins, they usually get divided into part one and part two. This is normal for string orchestras. And then the violas, and then the cellos and the basses. So actually that's 5 parts, sorry, I forgot. Your part is actually separate and different from the cello part in this piece and other string orchestras. So 5 parts. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about this one. It's our last piece. Enjoy it.